Welcome back to The Wandering Screen. I'm Matt Koss and I'm diving into Wicked for Good, so let's get into it. After I stepped out of a screening of Wicked for Good, the first thing I felt was a weird sense of being dropped into the middle of a story mid-sentence. The film starts so abruptly, obviously because it's been a year-long intermission, that it made me wish I had re-watched the first one right before seeing this. Not because the story is confusing, but because this sequel depends heavily on the emotional groundwork of the first film. Wicked for Good picks up right in the space where the last movie left off, but it does not take the time to re-establish the connection between Elphaba and Glinda for a story that is built on the evolution and breaking of that relationship. The opening here feels more like a jolt than a welcome. The film drops us back into Oz at a moment when Elphaba is already seen as a threat and the world moves fast to label her as the enemy. The pacing in the first half struggles to reconcile with the fact that most viewers saw the first movie a year ago. Characters and conflicts return instantly and there is not much room to ease back into the story or the emotional landscape. It is a bold choice, but it does create a sense of distance at a time when the audience really needs grounding. And I know, I'm not the target audience, and people are gonna love it no matter what. And visually, Jon Chu's world remains stunning. Oz is still a vibrant Technicolor dream filled with movement and spectacle, but I had issues with the lighting early on. There are scenes where the backlighting undercuts what should have been more powerful moments, leaving Elphaba in more shadow than the scene called for. It feels like a small thing, but when you have a character whose presence needs to command the space, something like that makes a difference. The first act overall feels like it's rushing to catch up with itself. We are in a new phase of the story where Elphaba has become the figure everyone is told to fear, and the urgency to push forward does not leave much space to sit with the drama that the first film built so carefully. The performances in this stretch have moments of strength, but the emotional potency is not as consistent until the film finally slows down near the end, and that final stretch is where Wicked for Good becomes something truly beautiful. When Elphaba and Glinda finally share Too Good, it is the first time in the film where everything stops moving long enough for us to feel the weight of their bond. Honestly, all you need are tornadoes to turn things around. The tornadoes are epic. The editing relaxes, the camera gives each of them time, their voices blend in a way that reminds you why this story has been so beloved for so long. It's a moment about friendship and love and everything they could never quite say out loud. The film desperately needed more of this rhythm earlier, but when it arrives, it's magic. Performance-wise, Cynthia Erivo continues to be an incredible Elphaba. I do think she had more emotionally driven material in the first film, but she remains powerful and grounded here. Her voice soars, and she brings a deep sense of conviction to Elphaba's journey. Ariana Grande is also great at this time round, especially in the back half. Glinda has to navigate the unraveling of Oz under Madame Morrible's rule, and Ariana brings a surprising range to a character who could easily slip into pure comedic territory. She's funny when she needs to be, but she's also vulnerable and conflicted and quietly heartbreaking. Jonathan Bailey is fantastic as Fiyero. He has an instant screen presence again and brings real charisma to the role. His scenes with Erivo have a spark that adds dimension to the love triangle. The sequence that functions as the film's romantic peak, paired with his unexpected vocal showcase, brings a new depth to his character. He is charming and incredibly easy to watch. Now, I had some things to say about Jeff Goldblum's Oz in the first film, but he is more effective here than in the first one. He gets more breathing room and the performance settles into something more grounded. Ethan Slater also deserves credit. His transformation into the Tin Man is one of the most visually inventive and striking parts of Jon Chu's direction. Even under heavy makeup and transformation effects, he brings real emotion through his voice and body language. On the other end of the spectrum, Nessa remains one of the most frustrating characters in the Wicked universe. Whether it is the way she is written or the performance itself, Her scenes are tough to sit through. It is clear that the film wants to give her a difficult and complicated arc, but the execution lands as more draining than insightful. Jon Chu's craft is still really exciting. The camera is constantly gliding from one scene to the next and creating an almost musical flow between sequences. Once the film hits its stride, the 2-hour-plus runtime quickly, thanks to the movement and rhythm of the editing, is seamless. The scenes just melt together, especially in the final hour, where the emotional beats really start to breathe. Now, the themes of Wicked remain powerful. The way good and evil are perceived, the systems that manipulate those perceptions, the cost of standing up for what you believe in. The emotional pull of this story has always been the connection between Glinda and Elphaba, and while the sequel captures that beautifully at the end, I keep saying sequel, but it's really just the second part. It does take a long time to get back into that heart. So much of the emotional impact from the first film relies on that foundation, and this movie misses the benefit of re-establishing it before jumping into the conflict. Still, when you step back and look at Wicked for Good as the second half of a larger story, it accomplishes a lot. It is visually ambitious. It is emotionally rich in its final act. It's beautifully performed and filled with moments that remind you why this musical has stayed so beloved for years. It may not hit the same awards potential as the first one, partly because the novelty is kind of wearing off, but it is still a uniquely beautiful film. I can see audiences being moved by it. The final songs land with real force. The performances lift the material. I really look forward to watching both films together because this story is clearly designed to be experienced as a complete arc. Wicked for Good may stumble in its pacing and rely too heavily on viewers remembering the emotional setup, but when it finds its stride, it becomes something powerful and heartfelt and visually spectacular. Fans of the first film will absolutely find plenty to love here. If you've made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a like, subscribe for all the latest movie reviews this award season, and let me know your thoughts on Wicked for Good in the comments section below. Did you love it? Do you agree with my take? See you next time.